What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tesla Fix. Today, we have a special episode about the supply chain of Tesla. And for this reason, I've invited a very special guest that I've really looked out for to get on the podcast. It was pretty difficult because she has a very high demand schedule and she's busy all the time. Please give it up for Amy. She's joining me now. And so, hi, Amy. Thank you for being on. And maybe you can tell my audience, for those who don't know you, what you do and what's your background maybe, and we've got to jump into the episode.
Yeah, hi. It's so nice to be on. I've been looking forward to this. I am an airline pilot. I'm a co-pilot flying 787s, and I was actually supposed to be in London this weekend, but my schedule changed. I got paid to be home because they're training another pilot who's new to the airplane. So that's how we were able to schedule this. So being somebody who's in aviation, I quickly became into systems design, engineering for safety. And when Tesla came out, that I could recognize from things that Elon Musk was saying, the philosophy behind it and why, in my opinion, Tesla had real potential. So I started investing in Tesla, did not have a lot of money. I was a beginning pilot at that time, right at the IPO, right after it. Not of course, IPO shares, because you got to be an accredited investor, and I was way poorer than that. But I bought shares pretty much every 2 weeks since the IPO.
Wow, okay.
And then about 2012, I realized I could move my retirement fund over into Tesla as well. So I did that. And so have been all in for a very long time, and I've just followed the stock. Not the stock. I really am anti-following stock movements closely, but I've been following Tesla as a business, listening to every earnings call since the IPO, reading and researching any new projects until I'm just insanely curious about things until my curiosity is satisfied, and then I find something else to be curious about, and I just keep researching. And it's just a source of tremendous joy to me to follow Tesla. So I have every now and then I think, oh, I should be doing something. I should try trading. And I'm such a bad trader. I would have more shares if I had just cut buying every 2 weeks. I mean, it works 5 times, 5 times in a row. You're like, wow, this is working. I have more shares.
Yeah.
But that one mistake just wipes out everything else. If you're like me, there's some people that are so good at trading and options and everything else, but it's not my expertise.
Yeah, but this sounds very cool. Maybe one day you're gonna own your own 747. You can fly around privately then.
I didn't have much money. I mean, flying is one of those careers where it's a long time. You pay a lot of money in the United States to get your training, and then my first year as a flight instructor, I earned $11,000 for the year after having spent $80,000 a year prior on myself on all of my flight training. And then I got laid off on September 11th, and I had to go back to the low-paying flight instructing job. So I really was the first time in my life I had money to really invest when Tesla IPO'd. So it was serendipitous that was the timing of it, but it wasn't much money I was able to invest every month. I wish I'd had more, because I would have triple the stock now. But we all have to be kinder to ourselves. It's more important what we do right than the mistakes we make along the way.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true points here from Amy. I really like what you said. Because of course, the stock is moving how it's moving. You try to do decisions. Sometimes they are not good. Sometimes they are good. Investment is that's why there are also very people that are specialized in this field. I'm also a designer, so I'm not into analyzing financials or something, but I follow Tesla very thoroughly, and it really gets people excited. I really enjoy the company, and for me, the point was when I saw 2 rockets land at the same time. For me, it was this was the moment I was following Tesla a long time. I was very hyped about Tesla already, but this really for me was, okay, we're in the future now. I have to look at the Musk companies more thoroughly, and then started to look at content of Tesla and started to go into the community. And then I started my channel. When I've interviewed Farzad, he really pushed me to just start, and I started the channel. So yeah, but Amy, maybe we can go into the topics now, because I'm really enjoying what you always said. You're also in the Tesla Beat podcast with Tesla owner Silicon Valley together, with Joe together.
It's a very large area in California that his owners club covers. And it's kind of next to John's owners club. So they have worked together a lot over the years. And I really enjoy their different perspectives. And then, of course, on the Tesla Beat podcast, we also have Jeff Lutz, who's been a supply chain expert for years. I mean, he set up manufacturing in India. He set up manufacturing in China. It just adds such a wonderful perspective between the four of us talking. Yeah. But I was really looking forward to coming and talking with you, because we've been on something together, and I really enjoyed like the European perspective. You know, in the US we can get so myopic and focus just on the US, and it's like,
just US. For the US, it's just the US. There's no other country.
But I sometimes travel you get the feeling for work. You know, I travel all around the world, so I know that's not the case, and I really try and seek out different perspectives and challenge my own assumptions.
Yeah, thank you for the compliment. I really gonna take it, and really enjoy your content too. So please watch Amy, follow her everywhere, of course. I'm gonna put the links, of course, in the description. But Amy also put some slides here. She gave me some inputs here. We can show you, and we're gonna talk about the supply chain of Tesla, because this is very interesting, because Tesla is such a unique company, and I think supply chain is everything in that case. With the factories, they have to provide everything. They have to get their materials there. And I think this is also in the industry very unprecedented how Tesla is doing it, in my opinion. And maybe you can talk about those points you've made. So first of all, we have a tweet from Farzad here, where he was talking about what Tesla will announce soon. So the $25,000 compact hatchback, and the $40,000 plus van he was talking about. And those are those two on the side that are still covered in, that was on the Tesla shareholder meeting, I think it was, right? Was it the shareholder meeting?
I think they might have shown this a couple times, but it originally came from Investor Day. So
Investor Day, right? Sorry.
Yeah. So this is showing the slide that says the switch to electric vehicles, and then Tesla's estimates of, with their current fleet, how are they going to get to a sustainable energy future? How many different types of each type of vehicle, and this could include other manufacturers too, will the world need to get to the sustainable energy future? And so it shows, you know, the products that Tesla already has with the Semi, the Model S, the Model X, the Model 3, and the Model Y. But then it talks about Tesla's plans of having a Cybertruck, a new possibly commercial or mixed-use vehicle, and it's under sheet, but we assume it's a van. And then what we know to be the Gen 3 platform, because they also talked about the methodology of how they were going to be able to produce that Gen 3 platform and produce a car for for less floor space and less time and less effort, and be able to charge, you know, within the $25,000 range.
Yeah. Now, when we also heard about that the price of the Model 3 with all those incentives in the US is reduced so dramatically. This is great positioning beforehand when they're gonna release this new car, because I think they want to fix the price point at $35,000 to have a middle car between the Model Y and the Model the $25,000 Model 2 or Model Tau, or however you want to call it. I don't know. So the smaller hatchback car. Maybe it's a hatchback. We don't really know. Actually, the robo-taxi platform, that we could call it, or something. I don't know. So yeah, this is very interesting. And on the
that's
want to add something
part
there?
of Tesla's path to getting to 20 million vehicles in 2030, which
Yeah.
remains a controversy.
Yeah.
Whether Tesla can actually continue this sustained on average, remember it is an average, growth of
Mm-hmm.
50% year over year over year over year. So as
Mm-hmm.
controversies come up, even within the Tesla bull community, people will say, I could foresee, Tesla's growth slowing to 30%, and then they'll say a supply chain challenge or some type of permitting or something else. And it's important to remember Tesla is planning for everything to not go perfect. That's why they say on average it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
50% growth rate. And we've already had some years that actually far exceeded the 50%
Mm-hmm.
growth rate. So we could have a couple of years where it dips underneath that. And of course, the stock will likely react
Yeah.
if it does. But if you're a long term investor, I see a very clear path where Tesla reaches 20 million vehicles by 2030. They said that the new model that's coming out, they can easily see it doing 4 or 5 million a year
Mm-hmm.
itself, and that's in one model. And that's where the analysts are having an issue because they just think that competition is going to come and Tesla is not going to be able to maintain a large market share. And the fact that Model Y is now, it's in quarter 1, it took the title of the world's best selling vehicle. It's a parity with ICE, where even though it's a more expensive car, people are making that stretch to be able to buy it. And number one starts to create its own momentum because people's like, well, what is everybody else buying? What is everybody else doing? And then they're
Mm-hmm.
going to go and seek out information on the Model Y and why did this become the most popular car, especially if it's a little bit more expensive. And then we
Mm-hmm.
just heard that China is reinstituting EV credits. The US has the IRA. Many other countries have credits as well for buying EVs. And there's a lot more focus on trying to get the car that's going to be the future. And then from a consumer standpoint, at some point, and this has already happened in China, we're past the early adapters and we're on to mass adoption in China. And we're on the verge of that in the US. So it's definitely on the verge of that in the world. And that's what the
Mm-hmm.
Model Y becoming the best selling vehicle shows you. And when that happens, even people that thought they would never buy an EV in
Mm-hmm.
their life have to look at resale value and they have to look at the expensive
Yeah.
purchase that a car represents and do they really want to buy something if the if the resale value is going to be so much less than it is on a Tesla. And then once they start looking into it, then there's all the cost of ownership, which are so much lower on an electric vehicle and especially on Teslas, where people's only under the hood service after 6 or 7 years could just be putting in windshield wiper fluid. So it's a really fantastic and exciting time where it's almost like we know a secret and the rest of the world is like
Yeah.
starting to catch on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it really feels this way. Yeah, this is very interesting to witness, especially those like the analysts were shouting wolf like for the last 10 years. I mean, with the competition is coming in that sense. So,
Yeah.
oh, the wolf is coming, the wolf is coming, but the wolf never comes. And it's interesting to see now that the numbers don't lie. And in my analysis that I've conducted and all the interviews I've did, I've also realized that it seems like in some areas, for me at least, I really think that it's already over in some cases. So, for example, the advantages that Tesla has with their charging network in the US, where of course the US is totally different game than Europe, because in Europe you you can't close up your infrastructure. That's not how it works in Europe. But in America, of course, you can do this in the US. But now they're opening up and partnering with Ford, which was a great move. I think the analysts then really felt like, okay, they're going to partner with an established company. They don't want to crush competition. Now they get it, how Tesla works, and I think this partnership is a great benefit because it legitimizes Tesla for the old industries, like in the sense that analysts that are very conservative now maybe see Tesla in a different light now. If they are helping Ford, that's a totally different thing than just they want to crush Ford. They want to change everything we do, and of course the change is always paired with pain. So people have like a pain with that. Like some people feel the pain, like, oh, the good old days where gas was so cheap and everything. But yeah, time moves on, and of course it's also like a safer car and everything. So yeah, I think this was a great move. What are your thoughts on this partnership? Maybe
Yeah,
can you
I think that the
shed light
partnership
here?
is a really, really good move. And, Tesla has partnered in the past. That's how they started.
Hmm.
They started producing drivetrains for Daimler and for Toyota at
Hmm.
the time that they were producing the Roadster and at IPO. And Tesla has more than once, Elon Musk has referenced that they would be open to licensing
Hmm.
FSD, full self driving, especially considering that Tesla is about, the mission and safety and improving humanity, and FSD is
Hmm.
undoubtedly going to save lives. Not only the lives of the people driving the car, but the lives of the occupants in the car and the lives of people on the street that might have been hit. But and we'll never know that they didn't get in an accident
Yeah,
because
exactly.
FSD
Yeah,
was driving that
because
car.
it's
I mean,
avoided.
that's the problem is you don't know the
Mm-hmm.
accident you would have gotten into. So safety has been historically like fear of bad consequences has always not been a very compelling reason for people to buy something. But
Mm-hmm.
they do like to buy it when it's just another indication of
Mm-hmm.
quality, when it's another indication of value, and then it starts coming into play of I am getting a good deal. I feel like my money is well spent. Oh, and by the
Mm-hmm.
way, some idiot drives the car off the cliff, and my family's going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of there's a lot of value in this deal with Ford and in the
Mm-hmm.
potential that it represents of Tesla being able to start grabbing some of that high margin software sales as they can
Mm-hmm.
license out parts of their infrastructure. And then for for people that are using the supercharger network, it
Mm-hmm.
will result in more superchargers available sooner. And of course, the software in the car has always been smart enough to route you to where the available chargers are. So
Yeah.
it will, as more chargers become available and they're quite close along your route, they won't really see except maybe the busy holiday weekends where you would have been waiting at a
Mm-hmm.
gas station or you will be waiting at a supercharger if you're driving at the most popular time to drive.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe even we get past that point, if you get
Mm-hmm.
more and more people putting in chargers, it might just completely meet the need. And of course, the
Mm-hmm.
motivation is now there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Very nice words you how you described it. I think yeah, it's great that they did it, and also helping them with their software and stuff. That I mean, this is like a benchmark test for licensing their software, and this is I think gonna be more and more important for Tesla as a business model as well. But because I think not many car companies are capable of doing this. We had a huge disaster with VW and Cariat, for example, that they can't. I mean, they treat software like the supply chain, like, oh, this part comes from this supplier, this part comes from this supplier, and that means the navigation system is from them, this part of the program is from this programming company. And so that's how it looks actually, and so that's how it works, and updates are horrible and stuff like this. I think this will get better, but yeah, of course, Apple and Google Play, for example, also on, or Google Android Auto, I mean, is also like a competition in some sense to that, because I think those software companies will gain more and more like influence in the car infotainment system, or maybe also on the in the software space. They're going to help them. So I think it makes sense that since Tesla is a technology company, just not just a car company, that they gonna yeah, partner with many companies as well. Yeah.
And yeah,
Hmm.
two more advantages there is Tesla produces the superchargers at a fraction of the cost. as anyone
Yeah.
else does with their the
That's true.
machine that builds the machine.
Yeah.
And furthermore, it looks like Tesla is doing an API for Ford where most of Ford's software is going to work seamlessly with Tesla
Mm-hmm.
software, and to the Ford purchaser it's going to for all intents and purposes look like almost like a Ford network as well as but when they get there, of course, Tesla's going to be on all the signs and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a good indication of how Tesla is not getting any type of infrastructure player credit for the EV network for EVs, but this is some of the first steps of moving Tesla into that direction of becoming
Mm-hmm.
not only an EV producer but an infrastructure producer for EVs. And that's
Mm-hmm.
starting with superchargers, but it can go on to FSD, it can go on to
Yeah,
entertainment, it can
that's
go on to
exactly.
many
Yeah.
other areas, similar to
Mm-hmm.
what you just said, which was brilliant about talking about, Android's App Store and Apple's
Mm-hmm.
App Store and how much power there actually is, and being the person that sets the standards.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, totally. And that's very interesting. Also, the charging standard is always discussed. I mean, with partnering with Ford can legitimize also the Tesla plug, which is also a great plug. I've looked into this a little bit. I'm going to talk with my Tesla weekend about this next week. So I'm gonna look into this a little bit more. So I won't spill the beans too much because I'm not sure. I have to check, really validate because I'm not an engineer. But yeah, it looks very good in that sense. Europe developed a different standard and that Tesla adapted then. But yeah, we will see how this works. I wish we had the small charger. It's way less complicated. Very for the user, the end user. It's much more yeah, easier to use
And
in
Ford
my
is going
opinion. Yeah.
to include
Exactly.
that
Yeah, that's very
adapter.
yeah.
And Elon Musk has said that it is a better
Hmm.
standard.
A
I
friend of
mean,
mine also said that.
hopefully we don't get to where cell phones are, where you have 5 different ways to charge them. It would be nice if the world could agree, and if we could at least just keep it to 2. That's still a win.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's very true. But maybe we can jump back to the topic of the supply chain because I think you've also mentioned before in the Tesla Beat podcast, or you've talked about this, the role of China, of course, because Elon visited China a few days ago and talked with the team there and had a presentation and everything. So maybe we can look into this. I'm going to put up a tweet that you've posted. It was like a repost of Berlin Energy that was yeah, having a clip of Elon Musk talking at the at Giga Shanghai. Maybe we can watch the clip at first, and then we can talk about a little bit about China because it's a huge topic. I think for reaching 20 million cars. That's the whole premise of this episode. So let's jump in.
Thank you for being here late at night. I would like to just very much congratulate you on the amazing work that you've done. It's been incredibly impressive how you have been able to overcome so many difficulties and so many challenges. And I just want to let you know, it's like, it warms my heart, And I tell people in throughout the world, the cars we produce here are not just the most efficient for production, but also the highest quality. I just feel like there's so much that gets accomplished. There's so much positive energy of getting things done that actually, I think, will be very important, not just for Tesla, but also for the world.
So yeah, what do you think about this topic of Elon visiting China and the role of everything there?
China is absolutely critical for Tesla. Number one, they are refining most of the lithium that's refined in the world. They are a huge source of minerals and resources. And then what they did in allowing Tesla to own their own factory with the EV factory, though it is on leased land for a long-term 50-year lease, and now to have an exemption again for the Megapack factory, which is a separate exemption because the first one applied to just new energy vehicles. So twice now, Tesla has been able to fully own their own factories, and normally that's a joint ventureship in China where
Mm-hmm.
you have to partner with a Chinese company and then you're allowed to produce vehicles in the country. And we saw the close relationship that Tesla and China had over COVID-19, and then China had, of course, lockdowns. A lot of the world had lockdowns, but
Mm-hmm.
that the Tesla leadership in Shanghai was able to go to the Chinese government and say, not only do we need our own factory to have some type of continuity plan and to be able to stay open as much as possible, but we need these suppliers. And then they designated which suppliers and have their factories going too, or we can't do anything. And so we've seen a lot of actual partnerships between Tesla and the Chinese government. And of course, the speed with which they built Giga Shanghai was absolutely impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And then the how quickly they ramped, and then as Elon Musk has said there, the quality of the vehicles that are produced are all exceptionally good. And if you haven't been to China, it's easy to just think some elements of the government bad and not understand how awesome individual people are and how hard they work and how fun they are to hang out with. And I absolutely adore going to China. So
Mm-hmm.
we always have to separate out like the worst of a society and the individuals within a
Mm-hmm.
society. But it is a huge domestic market, now the world's most second populous nation, and it has also become one of the largest exports, and in part due to Tesla on vehicles and autos. So it's a hugely important market, and it will also have an enormous demand for energy when Megapack goes into play. And then we can also talk about a little bit more what Elon Musk did when he was there. But this is the first time I was able to be there in 3 years, of course, because there was a pandemic in the middle. That FaceTime is really important in the way that the Chinese do business and to develop and nurture and maintain these relationships.
Yeah, that's true. They're very face to face. Very, you have to go out with them, drink with them, and it's very like you have a whole ritual to make business there. It's not just like via Zoom call and getting deals done, just writing down the contracts and you're done. No, it's a little bit different than that. But you've touched on very interesting points here because also I was on recently was on Herbert Ong's channel as well, formerly known as Tesla Herbert, and yeah, we also talked about China because I think because China is also controversial, of course, and we have a trade war going on, and also it's a whole push and pull theme going on. But if you look at the global perspective on everything, because I think Elon really looks at this way because he looks at humanity in the whole. We have to arrange somehow. What is the option? Should we do something like with Russia that's happening really near from where I live? So I don't know if this is the way to go. I think we have to arrange somehow because if we want to become a spacefaring civilization, we have to come together as the world at some point. So I think that's a good case, and I also think because the trade problematic between the U.S. and China is so evident right now that's happening, the governments are already like very spicy to each other, like very riled up a little bit. It's almost like Elon Musk was an ambassador going there because he met a lot of influential people over there and talked with many of the very high-ranking officials there. And this is very important to get government support because China is the biggest polluter, one of the biggest polluter with India, for example, also the US very high or was very high. It's getting better, but still, I think China is the key to really turn this around because they are producing the most like one of the most CO2 emissions, and they're gonna be the first ones who really have a really widespread solution for this, like solar energy, wind energy. They're gonna ramp it up because this is the plan of the government, and we know that if the government decides something, they move really fast, and that's also very good for Tesla, I think. Yeah, in this sense, yeah, because they can supply, and they have the technology there. So what do you think on these points?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a really good point about that the Chinese culture is kind of where the US was in the 70s, where, LA was known for its smog. So certainly the US and many other countries in the world have no moral high ground to stand on because we've been there. But in China itself, there is a huge push from the populace that they want to clean up the air and that they want to clean up their environment. I need to look up this video again, but at one point, a woman had done a documentary on the pollution and the environment in China and uploaded it. And within a very short period of time, like a day or two, it had 1 billion views. And that was one of the things that actually propelled the Chinese government to be working with Tesla closely and other companies to show action. But it's starting from this grassroots level, you having the citizens and countries push the government because they want to pay less money for energy. They want to go outside and see blue skies. They want the rivers to be clean and not polluted. So that's a really great point that you brought up. That in the visit itself, it was interesting who we talked to. We talked to some of the top government officials. We know that they have energy is currently a big focus of the Chinese government related to this push to clean up the pollution. And then, in many of the rural areas, they don't necessarily have a grid the same way that we might in Europe or we might in the US, which can become an advantage, the same way that people didn't have a landline telephone and were able to just bypass phone lines running across their yards and go straight to a cell phone in their pocket. Many places in China and around the world are going to be able to go straight to some combination of distributed energy where they have solar, wind, batteries at home, combined with some element of a grid where they have some large scale solar and wind farms and Megapack factories and battery factories. And more than just Tesla's Megapack solution. I see some people get confused about some of the other companies that are out there that are doing these capacitor type of batteries or flow batteries that it's almost like an hourglass where you can flip it over and you can charge it for 12 hours and then you can flip it the other way and discharge it for 12 hours is like kind of a good way to think about it. So you can see the usages of why that can be very appealing if a solar farm is going to charge it up all day long and then discharge it all night. However, and they're a lot cheaper to produce. Also, you have very little fire risk. Now, so does the Megapack because they're using the LFP batteries, which really don't burn. But the issue with them is the round trip efficiency is very low, like in the 70% range of how much power you're losing, compared to Tesla is about 97%. And then totally. If you chain together many Megapacks, even though they can have like a rate of 3 hours, you can cover the entire period if you need to. But more than that, there is a grid stabilization action that needs to happen, and that needs to happen in milliseconds. And these flow type batteries don't discharge in a quick time frame whatsoever. So they are not very good, in fact, almost impossible to stabilize the grid with a flow type battery without really smart software attached to it, which is not really out there the same way. So even those people that are using these flow or capacitor type of batteries are likely to put a Megapack in and likely to layer Tesla's software on top because they still have a grid stabilization function that needs to happen. And beyond just the frequency spikes that happens, usually that the shortfall in the grid is related to a short period of time. The hottest part of the afternoon on a really hot day, everyone's got their AC on at the same time. So the Tesla Megapack is perfectly designed for that. And then it does something else called a virtual machine mode, which was actually something that was thought to be almost an impossible problem to solve. And there are people in the industry that still don't realize that Tesla has solved it. And when they hear that, they're like, "You're kidding me. I didn't know anyone could do that." And what that is that in a traditional power plant, these big, heavy turbines and machines, if they go down for any reason, they don't stop immediately, and that's inertia, right? They're going to keep spinning. They might not spin at the same rate, but they're going to keep spinning, and that allows a utility time to go out and fix the grid, reroute things, be able to do what it needs to do. If you have a solar field and you have an issue, it's an instantaneous loss of power. You don't have these heavy machines that are spinning. And that has actually been one of the huge blockers in the way of solar becoming something that is more the sole source of energy and across the power system. So the fact that Tesla's battery can discharge so very quickly, about 100 milliseconds, I believe it is. I need to look that up because I haven't looked at it.
So everybody with a grain of salt, take this with a grain of salt, but still.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
please go on.
But it's charging in fractions. It's just fractions of a second. We'll say that. And the fact that the software in AutoBuilder is an AI software, and it is monitoring lots of different things. And the Power Hub, they can run Megapack, which is Power Hub, which is on its own, if they pay for the virtual machine mode, can stabilize the grid. But the combination of the Power Hub and this virtual machine mode, and with AutoBuilder, which allows them to actually monetize the excess energy that they have in the wholesale markets, and determines how best to use the Megapack and the energy that is there. It's just a very powerful solution. And that's why, even though on paper, aspects of other solutions might look really good, but they're not the complete solution that a Tesla Megapack can be. And there's a reason why Tesla has over a 2-year wait list on this product. Now, again, the market is so absolutely enormous that it's going to be a combination of all of the above. And there will be enough business for every single company that gets into it for a very long time.
Yeah. And what I find very interesting in this whole area of fields, because, of course, when we talk about Tesla, we don't talk about the car company. And many analysts still think Tesla is a car company, which is ridiculous for us Tesla nerds that already know what's happening. But if you, like this point you've touched on single-handedly here, is when we reach 20 million, a rate of 20 million cars a year, for example, and what happens if the market is saturated? Let's just assume this. Yeah, guess what? The energy sector will be booming then, because every excess battery you are going to produce is going to go into a Megapack, and then we're going to sell or Tesla's going to sell Megapacks, and with their software integration and everything, because it's also an AI company, this is like a totally different beast, because this is so integrated. It's crazy. And now with Elon's acquisition of Twitter, which everybody's laughing, oh, he overpaid, ha ha ha, so funny. The thing is, Tesla plans in 10-year cycles, like Jeff Bezos, for example, as well. So those are totally different beasts of CEOs. You really, like, they are the Tim Cooks, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world. So very high performing people that are on a different level in the sense. And Elon always wanted to do a social network, and he had those plans laid out in his head already. That's the same thing with the Boring Company. I assume that the boring diameter of the Boring head is the same diameter as the rocket they are launching all the time. So I think this also is a plan, like to get those things, those things on Mars, and the robots on Mars and everything, for example. So this is what he's planning in the back of his head while he's developing those companies to put everything together. And now we have this Twitter, they can train a language model with that and he really talked about, oh, we're gonna do another open AI now because they already did that. But if this everything comes together, I mean, you can talk with the robot, you can talk with your car. Then, for example, the car might remember what you were talking about beforehand, and makes assumptions what you thought, what you were pointing at or hinting at, and stuff like this. Then you have your energy grid, especially in the US, where we have a lot of homeowners that really have their own house. In Europe, it's a totally different thing. Like the public really don't has so many houses here, but like not in the US, the suburbs, for example. And this is a model that works so great for suburbs, where you have a smart grid over there in smaller communities or something like this. Also, to stabilize the network and everything. Like if you put everything together, it's totally like crazy. And the energy sector is a big sector, and the robot sector is even a bigger sector than the energy sector. So we're just in the beginning of Tesla, actually. This so a point I wanted to touch on here, because this was so interesting that you get so deep into this rabbit hole of energy. And I think sometimes we have to explore those holes to get through them and think about this and put it into context of the rest that the company is doing, so people are understanding. So that's why Tesla is it's like almost like an ETF in some sense, because it has like 17 technology companies in one. Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah, but please go on. I didn't want to.
That was brilliant. exactly. Kind of summed up kind of what my point was of how many different potential areas. So we don't know everything that Elon Musk talked about when we was there. We just know who he met with. You know, we met with some very important people in the government. We know that he did meet with someone who's in charge of FSD. That's going to be a regulatory challenge to get Tesla's FSD approved there. And those in-face meetings are critical. Tesla is probably going to have to partner with a local Chinese company there, because it becomes a security issue. And this won't be the first country that will feel like that. If you have cars recording the environment all around it, you do need some type of way for the country to protect their own data from a security standpoint. So they would likely have talked about how they're going to go about doing that. Baidu is a rumored partner for that. China also uses their own mapping software, one software that's approved that all manufacturers have to use. So some of those things would have been addressed. And then, of course, we know that there's a Chinese design studio, and that China is largely involved in designing at least a version of the Gen 3 platform that will be produced in China and for export. And so that would have been also a topic of discussion. And then, you know, China's a big place. Is there going to be another factory possibly in China? Probably not this year, but Elon Musk has said one more factory to be expected and announced before the end of the year. And when we're talking about the path to 20 million EVs, and let's throw in 1 terawatt of energy while we're talking about it, because those are Tesla's goals for 2030. It's going to require multiple factories and improving the speed and the production of the factories they have right now. So that's going to be a large part. And we, you know, very briefly, we know what those factories are. They have the factory that produces the superchargers. We often miss that one in New York. They have the Fremont factory produces every single vehicle that Tesla makes. They have Giga Texas still under massive expansion, including a battery production facility there. And it's going to be coming out with the Cybertruck soon. The new lithium refinery. We have Shanghai, which is producing both vehicles and energy, and has a large area of land next to it that it could expand into. Giga Berlin is producing vehicles, also has a tremendous expansion possibility to it, and has just had pictures show up of it's had the road to 10K vehicles. So they're shooting for 10,000 vehicles a week out of Giga Berlin. So there, you know, the factories that are already there, and then we have the announced Mexico factory. We have Lathrop for energy. We have Giga Nevada, huge expansion going on there with both a battery factory, the semi-line. So a lot of exciting news on how Tesla's going to reach these goals by 2030. That I think it gets largely, it's not, I don't think Tesla gets enough credit for how precisely they're executing toward these goals and how many pieces they're moving into position to be able to have that happen. But it's not because analysts are being stupid. It's because analysts are like,
Yeah.
well, you can produce all that, but are you going to be able to sell it? Is the demand going to be there? And in the absence of the factories actually being ramped, they're just not willing to put those plans in their models yet until it's closer, until Tesla is actually using dual castings and structural packs on the majority of their vehicles and the new powertrain. And then you'll see those cost of goods start to come down, or they see a couple quarters in a row of Tesla demonstrating that on their financials. So that's why we talk to each other. That's why the community is so strong, because the opportunity for retail investors is this gap of the pieces that we see moving into place for Tesla to get to their goals, but the analysts aren't yet willing to give Tesla credit for. And that's why that's something I focus on. And that's why I focus on the supply chain that we're going to be talking about, because that's one of the really good early indicators. Is Tesla going to be able to achieve these ambitious, huge, big goals or not? And we, Optimus is still out there too, like huge new areas, maybe a heat pump. I mean, like there's a lot of AI as a service. They're hiring someone to do an API on top of Dojo, their supercomputer that's
to rent out
designed for
training
AI.
Exactly. Oh man, so very exciting in many topics to get sidetracked, of course, because it's such a big field. But I think one of your tweets was very interesting as well. I think you've also explained it very good. I always like to really get out and look at the macro for 1 second then. And but maybe we can talk about lithium now. You've had a tweet here which says something about the lithium shortage may be an EV and BESS industry problem, but unlikely to be a Tesla problem. So Tesla has been preparing to produce 20 million EVs and 1 terawatt of energy by 2030 since before 2010. Tesla sourcing is a complex and layered strategy. And Elon Musk's soundbite on lithium availability is just a soundbite, not the complete Tesla lithium sourcing strategy, which is a very important point here. I think you did. I'm going to keep reading here. Information on Tesla's sourcing can be pieced together with research earnings calls, impact reports, supply deal announcements, Tesla job listings, supplier earnings calls, etc. Tesla is often negotiating deals. It is poor business to give out too much information about strategy and hurts negotiations, of course. Near term, Elon Musk said Tesla contracted an oversupply of cells and cell material for the near term. Martin Vieja said for the first time, Tesla has enough battery materials to grow energy and EVs at the same time, which was pretty interesting. Over here, maybe you want to talk about this a little bit. And then we can go to your next points you've did there.
Yeah. So, always there are investors that I kind of always ask, what is Tesla doing right? Does Tesla look on track to get to their goals? And I'm not as concerned on the timing of when they get to some goals. I expect some execution challenges. Other people, though, especially if they're managing other people's money, they care a little bit more about timing. And right now, Lithium has again entered the chat as is there going to be enough lithium for Tesla to be able to produce 20 million vehicles in the year 2030? And it's a real question, especially as you have China producing a large part of it. Chile just nationalized lithium. They produce another large part of it. Australia, also a huge source of lithium. So there are some definite risks there. And so what Tesla's strategy is and the risk mitigation is actually really important. But I think if you pay more attention to what Tesla's doing about this is not news to Tesla. Tesla, from their inception, has been struggling to source enough battery components and materials for their EVs. And up until last fall, it was a limiting factor to growth. And Tesla never had a problem during multiple earnings call after earnings call after earnings call saying, yes, we're still self-constrained. I see tremendous potential and energy, but we just can't give it the attention it deserves because we got to choose one or the other, and we're choosing auto right now. So if Tesla actually saw it as a short-term problem, they would say it. If they saw it as a longer-term problem that was a significant risk, that wasn't just another challenge amongst many other challenges that they're dealing with that they have to work around, then I believe they would also say it. But what Elon Musk has said is lithium is actually an abundant mineral. It's available in many places. And what we saw happen is as lithium prices spiked, 3 of the top producers of lithium started mining more, and their mines started producing relatively easily more lithium over that period when the economic incentive was high enough.
Yep. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I think also here in your tweet that you've got on with that the Tesla has a new lithium lab and the lithium refinery. Part of the purpose of these is to be able to economically source brownfields. Should they need for a short term? Sorry.
Yeah, so the brownfield topic is not something that people talk about a lot. So so what people say is, what if Tesla's wrong? And it could take 10 years to permit a mine. Then what do they do in the meantime? And this is going to get into the second 2 points there too, which is number one, Tesla has very strong existing and continuing relationships with most of the big battery manufacturers in the world and some of the biggest miners in the world. So, and Tesla has clearly communicated their needs going out through 2030 and beyond of how much lithium they want the miners to be able to produce to supply Tesla. So this will be an industry problem. This will be, it will be hard for some people to source enough lithium and other cell materials as well, including and semiconductors, chips, you know, copper to run the wire. All of these things are going to become an issue. But I don't think it's going to be a Tesla issue because Tesla will be the one. It's the large customer that these companies are going to prioritize, and it was already in their plans. Tesla's needs are already in every single one of their suppliers' plans, and Tesla goes out to their suppliers, and they've done this over the years in many different areas, and they said, these are our plans. Can you do it? And then Tesla embeds their supply chain team in their closest suppliers down tier 1 is the one that contracts directly with Tesla. Tier 2 contracts with the supplier that contracts with Tesla. Tier 3 with the supplier with the supplier that contracts to Tesla. So they embed employees often down to tier 3, and then they go and they inspect down to tier 6. And they try and get an early heads up of anything that's going on with the supply chain.
That's crazy.
And so when we look at the brownfields, which is what I was also talking about, what happened the last time there was a shortage of lithium is Chinese brought in the already mined rock from lithium mines that was just put off to the side as not having a high enough percentage of lithium. And they just put that on a ship. They brought it to their refineries, and they were able to produce lithium from those brownfields. So Tesla has actually specifically hired people that have an expert in brownfields. This is one of their risk mitigation strategies. And by having their own refinery, they will be able to more economically extract the lithium from those brownfields. So that's where that short term, what if Tesla isn't completely right, is one of the elements of where it comes in. And both Tesla will be the one that's prioritized. They are the whale. They are the most important contract that supplier has that everybody else wants to work with too. And number two, they also have some idea of how they could quickly, a brownfield can be done in a year or less. especially if you have your own refinery.
Okay, interesting. So to, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. So how I understand it is like Tesla is talking about a problem which is way down the line actually, and they are preparing right now for this, and this may distort some, like if they have a lithium shortage problem. No, they are working on the problem in step 3 that is not even this level right now. So we have a lot of lithium available right now. That's what the point you were making, I think. Like I understood it.
Exactly.
But, okay.
Yeah, thanks for
Perfect.
summing that up, because that's a very important point. This is the long term, like 2030 and beyond. The question, Tesla has an overcapacity of supply right now because, as Elon Musk said at Investor Day, they have found it easy to ramp up or ramp down Megapack production quickly based on the amount of cells that they have. So any excess cells, especially as they're using LFPs in now cars and in the Megapacks, can be put into a Megapack if they need it. And so that
very
is
important. I think this is this point alone is such an advantage. If we look at Tesla again as a car company, when every analyst shouts, why is Tesla valued as every car company combined? That's the reason. That's the exact reason, for example. And this is just one of the reasons, a small one even, which is crazy. Because if they have overcapacity, they can put it into Megapacks. And this is the whole deal. And now they are securing lithium for the next decades to come. And then if a VW or a Ford or anybody really, I mean, they open up the pockets for those suppliers, and they like almost try to shift the whole industry and say, produce lithium right now. We're gonna buy everything you produce, and yeah, like in the future, you have like a huge business in this kind of heavy industry. So yeah, crazy, absolutely mind blowing. I just wanted to add this, but please go on. I didn't want to interrupt you.
It's a super important point, and I'm really glad you added that. It is, and it's such a layered strategy. So if you ask, Tesla was asked by an investor at the annual shareholder meeting, do you have the lithium locked up through 2030? And Tesla's answer is no. And the reason why that is because that is poor business when you have something spiking at a high that's a commodity that tends to go like this in cycles. It will spike up at a high. Yep. And yes, the need and the demand is predicted to grow, but it's still subject to the macro environment. We have heard, BYD was slowing production in China. Many other Chinese EV manufacturers did the same. China found themselves just this winter with excess lithium that was produced over the lithium that was needed. So Tesla just kept their existing contracts, was trying to make sure they always will be a pricing component that goes toward that spot price that you see, but that's not what Tesla pays. Tesla pays a long-term contract price that has probably an element, and we don't know, but they will likely have an element of it that's paid to the index to make sure that their supplier doesn't get completely underwater on that long-term contract, that it's fair all the way around. And then these deals would go 2, 3, 4 years, and then you renegotiate it before it's done. And this is just the common cycle of the way that these contracts go forward. So if Tesla had said that they had locked in supply at a high through 2030, I would have been very upset. They would have ended up overpaying. Now the prices have been coming down on lithium. Tesla has their new refinery, and they can go in, and they've said that they were going to renegotiate on the Q1 earnings call a lot of those supply contracts extensions this summer. So they were not trying to catch the falling knife as the lithium supply prices were coming down. They weren't really renegotiating yet. And actually to start renegotiating just after the prices start going up is a really good time period to do it, because it's just the same way momentum trading on a stock. You don't try and buy in as it's going down. You wait until it's done that reversal, and then you feel good about doing this. And remember, this is a relationship that is exceptionally important to both Tesla and to their suppliers, where they want to maintain that relationship. They actually, even if the contract's not there, a large part of their future plans feature around what Tesla has already clearly communicated that they need. And there is a huge chance. I worked for an airline that when oil prices were spiking through the roof, that, well, it just can end the company if we don't at least say we can pay this, we can't pay above it, and they locked in the price, and they ended up losing hundreds of millions when oil then started falling. So there's a huge disadvantage of locking in supply out of fear rather than having just an ongoing relationship. And let's look at who Tesla's suppliers are. It's Panasonic, it's LG, it's cattle. That's one of the things that Elon Musk did when he was in China. It's the largest battery manufacturers that are out there. It's also the largest mines, in like Albemarle out of Australia, and now Piedmont, and which is going to be mining in the U.S. And the Tesla is this geographically diverse from cell component suppliers, diverse from raw minerals, and diverse in types of contracts, with some contracts being, complete offtake deals that we will just take this lithium from you at this cost. Some of them are pegged to markets. Some of them are just an option to buy on a mine that isn't even producing yet. And they've found that rather than having to do what GM and Ford have done, where they went and bought a stake of a mine to be able to make sure that that mine could make it, and that they could determine what their own supply would be. If Tesla just signs an offtake deal and an option on the mine, that mine has often found that they can get financing and liquidity themselves without Tesla having to be the one that provides it, on the strength of Tesla's known volume, known business, and on Tesla's financial strength, having 22 billion plus in the bank and low debt. Whereas there's a risk of bankruptcy with GM and Ford, where if you sign a contract with GM and Ford, they might be able to nullify it in bankruptcy court, which is a huge deal when you're trying to lock up critical supplies. So there's a reason why GM and Ford had to purchase stakes in a mine where Tesla does not.
Yeah, and this also makes them more flexible. Of course, if some project isn't working really, they can shift their strategy right away to another supplier. I mean, we've listed here many battery producers: BYD, CATL, LG, and Panasonic, for example, that they are working with, and raw refined lithium with Albemarle, Livent, Ganfeng, Yahua for raw materials, as well. So interesting those about those deals, because those kind of details is more like how does Tesla do business, and this has nothing to do with the the business we see with our own eyes on the surface. We see the cars, we can order the cars are going to be sent to us, but Tesla isn't actually a car producer. If you look at it this way, they are a factory producer. They are a contract producer for those lithium contracts, for example. They are more in that category. They're doing big business to produce, and the car is just the toy car that comes out on the end of the supply chain, or the robot is just put out. Then it's about the whole machine, the whole company, on the whole, actually.
Exactly.
That's how you could look at it.
No, very, very well said. That's a really important point. There's so many diverse areas to Tesla's business, and they all integrate. The fact that Tesla is an AI company, and that they're a tech company, and they wrote their own in-house software, so they know exactly from the materials leaving to the car going out, coming back in for service after it's been purchased years later. They can track everything, and I have access to extra information that other companies just don't. I mean, it's incredible when you actually start digging into what Tesla's strategy and plans is. And they are harder to get into than Harvard for an employee. And what you see is the best of the best in every single department. And you start looking into what the best experts in the industry will say. And one of the things they say is if, the way that the lithium will be solved is clearly communicating your needs to the suppliers, and the suppliers will start making actions to make that happen. And Tesla has been doing that for a long time. I mean, how many times have we heard Elon Musk say lithium refineries is a license to print money? And to lithium suppliers, we will take everything you can send us. He has been saying that for a very long time. And you can see that around Nevada, where GM's deal is. This McDermott Caldera is the Lithium Americas mine that they bought a stake in. It has multiple other claims and around it, as does the only operating lithium mine in the U.S., the Silver Springs. Many of these publicly traded companies, and you start looking into what they said, and part of their roadshows was to Wall Street analysts, and they all cite the Tesla Gigafactory right there and the chance to supply Tesla and the huge business opportunity that is. So Tesla, just the name of Tesla, and just you don't need even the offtake agreement. If you just have a mine close to a Tesla factory, you can get financing. It's just crazy.
It's really
and everyone at Tesla, they're just the best of what they do. I just enjoy following what they do
totally.
immensely, because it's just it's a Harvard MBA in and of itself, just watching what Tesla does and looking at the reasoning of why they did this.
Yeah, that's really true. It's like those New York taxi drivers that had to remember the whole map of New York City to get approved, and new areas in your brain have to develop to even realize what Tesla is doing. That's how I feel when I always talk to industry experts, also with the Tesla community on the whole. It's really crazy how informed many people are. But maybe we can just jump through your tweets you also sent me, or also the content you had here. Here's a picture of that's, I think, those points you touched on. It's about Tesla localizing mineral supplier factories by end user worldwide. Part of Tesla's plans for Master Plan 3 is localization to smooth logistics and the massive tonnage of materials that needs to be moved. Tesla already redesigning their supply chain. That's you've touched on that really thoroughly, I think. And the risk mitigation, you've touched on that also a little bit here. Tesla has a diverse geographic list of suppliers, see supplier list and map of numerous unknown deposits below, many more too. So many interesting points here. And also the map, I've shown that when you were talking about the whole lithium capacity that the world has. And interesting that was the point that we've touched on, that it seems like a huge problem, but actually we have a lot of lithium supply here, and it's about the contracts. It's about how to get those materials to Tesla, and they are preparing for a shortage of lithium already, more or less. Or if the market gets because of course they want to keep the prices down and lower the prices even, because I think that's so what
you're showing is the world map, and it has the deposits of known lithium, and this is already an older map, at least a year old, that in red, big, based on how much of the world's known lithium is there. So there's a large deposit in Mexico. Mexico also nationalizing lithium just very recently. Tesla has a deal with one of their suppliers. Already had the concession developing with the Mexican government. They got in before the nationalization, and it looks like the Mexican government is going to honor that. Same thing in Chile, when Chile would nationalize their lithium, and that's the other big area of red that you see down there in South America. Tesla has two existing suppliers. They're their Albemarle, and then one of their battery suppliers is getting cells from Chile as well. So they have exposure in two places. Both of those contracts are going to be honored through the end of the contract. One of them extends through 2030, one of them through 2025, without having to deal with the nationalization of the lithium there. We're going to see some more nationalization of lithium deposits, I believe, happen. But as they go looking, they are discovering a lot more lithium. So it's not even on the map, but there's a there's a geothermal Salton Sea in California that has an incredibly large deposit of lithium, enough lithium to provide lithium for every car produced in the United States for the next 50 years, no matter what level, to 100 years of expansion you look at the US government doing. The challenge is how do they extract that lithium? So they're already taking this underground seed, the brine out, and they're using it for geothermal energy in 11 plants around this deposit.
Mm-hmm.
They can extract the lithium from that brine and then produce it into a battery grade mineral. There was a demonstration plant there that Elon Musk tried to buy in 2016. So he's very aware of everything that's going on. And the demonstration plant was working. What fell through was the valuation. He wanted to pay like $325 million and they wanted $1.3 billion. And they were almost bankrupt, and then they did go bankrupt. So the VCs got greedy, a real lesson. And at that time, Tesla didn't need that lithium, and Tesla still doesn't need that lithium. But that's an example of how, as the need grows and the demand changes, now they're looking again. The California government has commissioned a study. 2 private industries are commissioning studies too on how can we economically extract that lithium from there. And that's not even on this map, which shows many different areas where lithium is available. The other side of what I'm saying, the optimistic side or the pessimistic side, is the last mine in the US took 10 years to permit and to come online. But just the regulation you saw with Uber should never have existed if regulation was actually a true blocker. In pretty much every major city in the world, there was some type of taxi business, some type of taxi
in Germany
license
as well.
that
We
you
don't
had to
have
buy.
Uber.
That was super expensive. But by offering a better solution and solving a pain point, it came into being, and it came into being quicker and way faster than anyone ever thought that it would happen. So it's not that it's not a real concern, but I just don't think it's a Tesla concern. Tesla has the supplier relationships in place with almost every single major player. They're one of the largest customers of every single major player. They have already functioned as cushion for their suppliers. When their suppliers have ended up with an oversupply, Tesla has taken those batteries. That type of thing, when Tesla does that, builds this mutual trust and this mutual partnership going forward, where both partners are equally invested in seeing the other succeeded. And that's just another example of Tesla being best in class and world class at everything that they do, that they have set up these supplier relationships as true partnerships where both partners succeed.
And I think it's very interesting to see, like you said, like they don't want to get their suppliers bankrupt with their decisions they do. That's why they mitigate risk for them in the beforehand, really show them, right, look, the demand is here. We have a huge supply of cars. The world is shifting now. We all know that. We've already proved our points beforehand. So Tesla really started this whole EV revolution actually in this mass, and I think at least like they accelerated this technology even like over 15 years in my opinion. So here also like this is directly from the Tesla website, I think, or from one of those pitch decks they had online about the unique Tesla approach, going directly to the source is the headline, and it's about direct sourcing for mining companies and direct local engagement. I mean, you talked about this already. Maybe people can look it up on the internet as well, just on the Tesla website, and really look into this, which is very important because they stabilize their partners. And I mean, they have a huge war chest of money. The investors also play their part here, that if you own Tesla stock, you help accelerate those plans, because Tesla really is a doer in that sense. I think is also like almost a vote. You almost vote for this technology to come to fruition. And and no financial advice here at this point. Everybody can do whatever he wants, but I think it's so interesting because it has so many halo effects, you could say. Like really Tesla is a mover, and also together with the Chinese companies like BYD, which also do a great job in transitioning. They still have trouble getting to those margins that those stream margins Tesla has, with over 20% margins and stuff like this. So yeah, absolutely interesting what's happening, and I think like a great company still to follow, of course. I mean, this is Tesla Fix, the channel with Tesla in the name, and yeah, but really interesting stuff. Amy, thank you very much to really dive into this. And the last two slides you had also here, I'm gonna put them up here, was about the upcoming conversion refining plant will turn hard rock I can't pronounce this word.
I'm not positive, like spodumene, something like that.
Spodumene, sorry, or into lithium hydroxide, which is used directly in battery cells. It should be noted that prior to Tesla's battery efforts, this process has traditionally been performed in China using spodumene. Sorry if I butchered that. That's sourced from Australia. In its report, Benchmark Minerals noted that Tesla will be using a hydrometallurgic. Oh god, okay, this is too hard for me to pronounce.
Hydrometallurgic, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. Process to turn its spodumene ore into lithium hydroxide, effectively eliminating the use of sulfuric acid. This process, however, remains untested in the commercial scale. So maybe you can talk about this point here for 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, since I have trouble even pronouncing the words.
No, but it's important for people that are just listening for us to, even if we're stumbling through the slide, to say it. So part of Tesla's long-term plan is disruption. Just like Tesla disrupts every area that they enter, and in fact, Elon Musk companies disrupt every single area that they enter as well. There is no reason why the way that mining has been done needs to be the only way it's done. Now, this is not discounting in any way the expertise of professionals that are very, very good at what they're doing. It's actually instead giving them the resources and the science and the backing to make all their wild dreams come true of how could we do this better, which is a very important distinction. I think that a lot of the negative press we see is people misunderstanding what Tesla's about and being like, oh, you think you can just come here as the new kid on the block and suddenly do it better? But that's not how Tesla operates. Tesla goes to the people that are doing it. They appreciate their expertise and they're like, how can we make this better? How can we make this more efficient? And they use that expertise and that knowledge that people have. And two of the ways that Tesla's going to do this, and it's like not 2030 I'm looking at, because I see Tesla's very clear path to be ready at 2030 for their goal. I'm looking beyond 2030. I'm looking at what chess moves is Tesla making now to have their supply in place later, and what type of massive disruption in more industries is Tesla going to be making, and what might be the time frame on some of that. So when we look at Tesla's lithium refinery, there's we've heard Elon Musk time and time again say, first he begged. First he like flat out got on earnings calls and begged people, please, like, don't go and start another app. Go out there and start a lithium refinery. It's a license to print money. And he said this time and time again, and this is the way that Tesla operates. They first try and get somebody else to do it. They have enough.
Yeah, they don't want to like vertical integrate everything. That's a huge point. Everybody says, "Oh, they vertical integrate everything." They don't want to do that, actually. Yeah.
But if nobody else
have to
up, then they have to, and that's what this lithium refinery is. And there's also a lithium lab that's going in place that's going to be researching processes. And there's a couple of very important points that are said in this article. First off, there's a couple of different forms that lithium comes in. And this lithium form that Tesla is using isn't what most refineries are producing. So one of the just back of the number calculations that people are doing, and they're thinking about it in a smart way, and kind of like a basic physics way, is what is the amount of lithium being produced versus what is the stated capacity of refineries out there right now. And if you look at some of the more recent numbers, it actually looks like refineries have twice the ability to process lithium as what was actually mined in like 2022. So it seems like lithium is the problem, not the refining is the problem. And that might be the case for many other areas that lithium is used. Lithium is used in glasses, it's used in many other things other than lithium ion batteries. In fact, in as recently as 2015, batteries was only 30% of the uses of lithium around the world. But now, of course, that's rapidly changing, and lithium ion batteries, I believe, is over 80% of the usage of lithium. So that is a higher grade lithium that needs to be mined, and it's a more precise refining process. So not all the refineries that are out there have the ability to take in lithium and economically turn it into battery grade lithium that Tesla can use on their very high performance vehicles. So that's one of the reasons why Tesla had to get into refining. And that will bring us into the next slide.
I'm gonna open it up. And I just wanted to add here, while I'm opening up the next slide, is that the refinery is also like a show plant where you can see this is how you can do it. Please do it, because it's like a test facility plan to show the world how it's done to produce this kind of lithium, and they really try to get the highest industry standard, the newest technologies there in refining, to revolutionize refining with their because they're a technology company, with their software, with their management software they are using in those factories, for example, as well, with the management software they're using. Every employee gets a phone with special apps on there and stuff like this. I think this also ties into this, maybe they can add their technology in this space as well, and then they can model a interesting refinery here that people can adapt, because just like Ford going to Tesla and talking with them, can we do it? And I think this will become more and more evident as Tesla grows, because they are seen from the auto industry as hostile at first, of course, and now maybe they can shift in the next 2 decades to become a real partner, and that's what we see already here laid out, because we have to strive together to really reach those global goals, actually, and this is what Elon's highlighting. But I just wanted to add this. But in this slide that is more than all the lithium hydroxide produced in the world currently. So clearly, the industry is facing a critical resources shortage, he told CSNBC. It's from an interview, and anyone who can produce materials to supply this market, especially domestically in the United States, will be in a favored position. Maybe you can.
And of course, this actually goes beyond just the United States. What this company was doing. So this is a quote from Piedmont. Tesla has a large deal with Piedmont. Piedmont is also going to be building a refinery in the United States, that with lithium refinery that will refine to the battery grade level of lithium that Tesla needs and the preferred component. So what Tesla has done is a deliberate choice of, rather than getting into mining, Tesla was going to establish these very good partnerships around the world with both the cell suppliers that often have their own deals for the raw materials, and then raw materials contracts, and then contracts like this with Piedmont, where Piedmont is going to also have their own refinery. And this refinery that Piedmont has said will be able to produce enough lithium for 500,000 EVs a year. Tesla's refinery is supposed to produce enough lithium for 1 million EVs a year. In the United States alone, and I think we're going to see more of this type of deal in the future with the incentives. Tesla is not going to be able to use in the U.S. any lithium that was mined or refined in China, which is like 80% of what's being refined right now to these battery grade levels. So it's important when you look at the fact to qualify it. So what does this mean to Tesla? So refining capacity worldwide is large. Refining capacity for Tesla's preferred form to Tesla's specification is going to be surpassed just by Piedmont's by new factory, and then it's going to be more than surpassed by Tesla's new refinery. And we still need other refineries besides to be able to get there. And the way that Tesla is going to make this happen is by what the first side said. They're already looking at how are we going to remove steps from the process. How are we going to make this cheaper to do? How are we going to get rid of harmful chemicals and not use sulfuric acid, which is both more environmentally friendly and, of course, removes a lot of steps from the process. And then they have said at Investor Day and other times, they're going to go out and share all this information that they learn with their suppliers, so the battery cell suppliers, and how they can speed up their processes and speed up their refining. And it's just a really interesting thing. Now, going back to the point you very wisely made earlier, this is a long-term thing. Tesla in the short term, in the near term, has more than locked up all the lithium that they need. And probably by the end of the summer, when they renegotiate the deals, there'll be a large way toward locking up all the lithium that they need close through 2030 in the amount that makes sense. You don't ever want to lock up 100% of your supply, because if there's another downturn, you want to have some capacity. It's like having dry powder in an account if you're not an all-in crazy investor, like
true.
someone I know, to be able to profit from the downturns. But through 2030, Tesla's future is looking bright. This is Tesla looking at energy beyond 2030, helping the entire world get to where Tesla is. How are we going to do this? And how strategic Tesla is in every single element of their business, and how far forward they look. And nothing surprises them. That doesn't mean that it's not justified to say there's execution risk here. If you read any official statement from Tesla, they'll have paragraphs of execution risk that they disclose. And on the earnings call, if they have any type of shortage, I mean, we heard it over COVID with the semiconductor and the chip shortage, and how but Tesla was very nimble and able to negotiate that shortage far better than any other supplier out there. And I anticipate the same thing is going to happen. And it's not just lithium, even though that was the topic that came up these last couple of weeks. It's all the battery minerals. And one of the ways that Tesla is doing that is by diversifying battery chemistry as well, and using different types of batteries and adding performance in areas other than just lithium. So like if you look at the new cattle battery, that the plant is being built right next to Giga Shanghai, even though there's no official deal announced by Tesla. Hopefully that will be soon, because we just saw the meeting with the cattle founder and Elon Musk. They're adding in manganese to their battery, which is cheap and is going to, on an LFP battery, add extra performance. So if there's ways of working in the battery chemistry area, and having the battery design, and then the battery management software that makes the whole battery become more efficient, and then the refining process and disrupting the refining process, and then clear communication, the needs, like all of this stuff is this really complex layered strategy that is really fascinating for me to follow. But it shows how deep Tesla goes into this, and how none of this is surprising to Tesla. None of it is something they haven't addressed, they haven't thought of. And then when you look at Tesla itself, capital deployment and allocation is a very important thing. Tesla is trying to build multiple factories at once. Tesla is undertaking a massive expansion. They can do that far better than other people. They have an in-house construction team. They have their own software, but they have a lot of things that they're already working on. So they're managing toward the risk of these long-term things, but they're also being wise in how they spend their capital, and they're keeping their cash reserves until such point as they really are printing so much money that they're struggling for ways to deploy it. And then you might see some more of like, oh, we just signed a 15-year lithium contract,
Yeah, really funny that you mentioned this. I think this really shows to the point, should Tesla do stock buybacks? I assume not in that sense, because they could use the money for their projects and just grow like it's not about short-term gains here. It's not about Tesla buying back stock. It's about they invest every penny into their plan and still have enough in the war chest. We have to remember that Tesla is one of the liquidiest car companies in that sense that they don't have a debt, like really low debt in comparison to all the car companies, for example. They're not too dependent. They have a lot of cash reserve, or not cash reserves, but money reserves. I don't know how big the cash position is they have, but I think Elon touched on this as well. With all the banks, that it's pretty difficult actually to get things moving sometimes. Like, it's such a high level that with so much money, it's pretty difficult to manage all this. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So I would say, if you really want to go even deeper into those rabbit holes, because we could talk for 8 hours, I think, on this podcast, but we have to end at some point. And I already took so much of your free time already, but I think my audience will really enjoy this. And I think it was important. I didn't want to stop you, because I think it's important that you get into those topics. So please follow Amy on Twitter. Her name is SF how
3 underscores.
3 underscores and then
Tahoe.
Tahoe. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm like Germany. I never saw this name or yeah.
No, it's a place. So it's
a place, Tahoe. Oh yeah. Okay.
And Tahoe is Lake Tahoe. It's in the Sierra Nevada
Lake Tahoe.
mountains.
Okay. Yeah. That's why it ringed the bell, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, there's
try
big
to
ski areas here. So
yeah.
if you've ever seen like someone going down a ski slope and this big blue lake underneath them, that's where I am.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. So please follow Amy if you want to dig even deeper into those rabbit holes, because I think sometimes we have to explore these caves and really find the nuggets there, if you say so. And I would say this episode was such a great summary. I think even more groundbreaking topics that are not on the surface as much, and pretty like this is the whole business model. This is the whole production of Tesla. This is that's where really the direction of Tesla is heading. Like, it's a much higher level to look at this also, I think, but sometimes complicated to navigate through. So that's why I really enjoy your posts. I really enjoy your talks you do with when you're on some podcasts. I really enjoy it to watch. So please also watch the Tesla Beat podcast. Also, Amy is a regular there. She's one of the hosts there, and is really a great person of the Tesla community to really get an overview for those complicated topics. So yeah, Amy, is there something you want to pitch to my audience, or tell them what you're doing or working on, or you something that's on your heart you want to get out there? Maybe
Sure.
It's your chance.
Well, thanks very much for having me on. I really enjoyed talking with you. I'm also on Friday with Herbert a couple times a month. We reduced it from weekly because I was often flying on the Thursdays. So,
Yeah.
but with Herbert and I always have so much fun together. So I'll be on his channel a couple times this month as well. And then it's really important to me to look at what are the areas of outsized growth I see for Tesla? What are the area? How is Tesla making the proper moves to be able to achieve these ambitious goals? Does Tesla still have massive areas of disruption coming? And I hope that was my intent, at least, to touch on some of Tesla's insanely ambitious plans, Tesla's kind of methodology of disrupting everything that they touch, of changing industries when they get into it, why benchmarking against what's happened before is so difficult, and all the chess moves that Tesla's making that we can see now that's going to support this next level of massive expansion that's coming, which is what I like to follow. So I really, really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much, Amy. So there's only one last thing now to say to our audience, and my audience. That's goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Wasn't this episode awesome? Let's accelerate the pace of innovation by subscribing to Tesla Fix. It is my absolute favorite channel on the whole interwebs.